Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It is your Caped Crusader, Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our brand new friend, Jillian Wong of Way of the Kitchen King and Fried Rice Comics. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent today, Cody. How are you doing today?
I'm not doing too bad. Thank you once again. I loved it. You created this awesome image for me. We're going to start using it for Keeping It Geekly Gaming when I do a little bit of gaming here and there on the channel. So thank you once again for that. I love it so much. It's such an awesome design.
Well, you know, what can you do, right? I love the brand, and it ended up just being one of those things. I was like, you know, you have to support other content creators, and what better way to do that than to show your support and love through creation.
Hey, thank you so much. We had the opportunity to talk a couple of times on Global Comics. It's awesome to kind of see you in there, but now we have the chance to break down your comic. I had the opportunity to read it, and I fell in love with it. Before we dive into Way of the Kitchen King, let's dive into Way of Jillian Wong and how you started creating comics. That little segue there, I'm getting better at it.
You are. But you know what? It's awesome. So, yeah, I am Jillian Wong, and I come from Canada. And the way it started with comics is, I think as everybody does, I was really young, right? I was pretty much just a kid. And I decided, hey, this is really cool, and this is something I want to get into. But it wasn't something that was feasible for where I grew up, because I actually grew up in a really poor area. So when I started, I was literally starting with, they were the metal pens, the metal dip pens. They weren't even proper inking pens or anything like that. So I was starting on paper with metal dip pens and stuff like that. And no way of learning. So I set all that aside and decided to go into graphic design and stuff like that. And I've picked it up again within the last 5 years.
It seems like the room for learning, the learning curve with a pen like that would just be so insane. Because I just feel like if you make an error with it, it's over with that type of pen.
It pretty much is. If there are ways of fixing it, you can use whiteout, you can use other things like that, but you can't backtrack the whole thing. Mm-hmm. You're in it, you're committed. Once you start inking, that's it.
So what type of comics
are... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What type of comics were you creating around that time before you went to study graphic design?
Basically, I had this one that I gave a try here a while ago, but I still found that I wasn't quite ready for it still. It was called Ion Aether, and it's a science fiction that included mechs and mecha. It was an extremely difficult and taxing comic. You have to be very technical in the way that you approach it. And therefore, I felt that I could not do the story justice artistically at the time. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to allow myself to flourish as an artist, because I have background as a writer and a storyteller, but I didn't have the artistic training behind it. So I thought, you know what? Let's do something that's going to give me the training in drawing action scenes and stuff like that, so that I can actually bring this other one to life in the way that it actually deserves.
Okay. So
yeah,
with graphic design and stuff, that you were able to learn those different techniques that you needed to implement, and I'm assuming into the other project, which I'm assuming is the Way of the Kitchen King.
It is.
Okay.
Way of the Kitchen King is kind of my love story to myself. But also to everybody that reads it, because it's based on Journey to the West. And so, it includes...
Oh, sorry,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
No. So it's based on Journey to the West, and it includes such things as themes like the character Wukong and his companions, but in a modern setting. And basically, if Wukong had really learned his lesson and gotten into something like cooking, married a modern woman, lost her, and then decided that he needed to redeem himself, but sometimes redemption isn't that easy and people don't forget the past.
Mm-hmm. So you said it was based loosely off a book. Can you tell us a little bit about what that book was? I don't think I've ever heard of it.
It's actually Chinese mythology.
Okay, so that's probably why.
Yeah. And my husband is Chinese Canadian. So this is a big part of his culture. Hence my last name.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's a big part of their culture and their history, and there's a main story to it, and it goes that Wukong is the Monkey King, but he's very mischievous and he causes all sorts of no end of trouble, and he's eventually punished for it. He is, but he ends up going on this great journey, and I think it alludes to things like self-discovery and such for him and his companions. But that's basically it in a nutshell, even though they're looking for these objects and these scrolls that for this really influential king. He's a very, very powerful god, is what it comes down to. Wukong is an extremely powerful god, but he learns that he can't be exactly who he is, or he's not. It's not that he's not accepted, but he isn't a very kind person. We'll put it that way.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we see? How do we see that story influence this one? What parts of it? Because we have a really interesting protagonist. We actually have two. But we start off with Bash Cola, and I love the design. I love the character. So what influences from that story do we see within Bash?
Bash is Wukong. Basically, he is Wukong, and what he has done is he has sealed away his powers. He is the immortal Monkey King, but he has sealed away pretty much all of his powers because he has decided that this isn't him. This isn't going to be him. And especially once he married his first wife, which was a mortal, a human woman, he wanted to be better for her. And he decided, well, I need to earn my way in the world in a way that isn't going to be done through lying and cheating and all this stuff, right? So she grounded him, but now she's gone. Something has happened to her. We haven't spoken in the comic about exactly what has happened to her, but something happened to her, and he's starting to fray around the edges now.
Okay.
He hasn't gone back to exactly what he was, but he doesn't exactly know who he is anymore. And this story is about Wukong realizing that he can individually still be who she helped mold him to become. And not go back to his terrible ways. But sometimes there are people in the world that don't forget what you've done, and they don't have to forgive you. That's not, just because you say sorry doesn't make it okay. But at the same time, should he also continue to guilt himself? That's the thing. Should he hold himself in a way that continues to guilt himself and create this inner turmoil?
Oh, I like that. And such deep path to take him on too. And I only had the opportunity to read the first couple pages of chapter 1, but some of the previews you sent me, like, it just, wow, the battle scenes just look gorgeous. Can you tell us a little bit more about this tournament? There's some sort of cooking tournament that was kind of touched upon, and it just seems like it's from the look of the preview pages, it seems like it gets rather spicy.
It does. It gets insanely spicy. What it is, the way I describe it is that it's high-class cooking with superpowered beatdowns. Because that's basically what it is. They take giant utensils. Well, they start out as their normal little small forms. And what you can do is, because they're encoded to your DNA, you can make them into these huge, monster-sized utensils that you can use for combat reasons. Because basically the whole idea of the Kitchen King tournament is to determine not only who is the best chef, but who can pretty much take it to the other chef and say, I can beat you and still outclass you.
Mm-hmm. So are they cooking and fighting at the same time, or what does that look like?
Yes, they are cooking and fighting at the same time. Absolutely. They have to try and not burn the food, make it taste really good.
So are they fighting to the death, or is it just kind of like a ring out type of situation?
It's whoever can finish the meal first. Like, whoever can finish cooking their meal first and basically not be sabotaged.
So Bash has been a part of these tournaments. I know there's a handful, over 500-600, right? Bash has been a part of them in the past, or where does Bash come into with these tournaments?
Right. So he decided that when he married his first wife, that he was going to be a chef. This sounded like a really good idea to him. And then he realized that these Kitchen King tournaments were taking place. And it's like, oh, okay, so this is something I can actually do, because I know how to hit people. Right? It's like, I actually know how to hit people. So he decides that he's going to go and actually get into these Kitchen King tournaments. Mm-hmm. So it turns out that the dude can actually cook. And because he can actually fight, because this is Wukong we're talking about, he ends up somehow becoming the undefeated champion for years and years and years. Like, we're talking like 2-3 decades. Okay.
So does he end up losing, or does he walk away from the tournaments?
He walks away, and what causes him to walk away is because his wife passed away. And she passes away during one of the tournaments. Ooh,
okay, so some implications there.
Yeah, there's some severe implications, and he doesn't come back until the one that is happening right now in the comic. Because and it has to do with Coral, because there's a lot going on with her, and he feels like he can't just leave her to deal with it alone, is what it comes down to. Because despite everything that he is, he's learned compassion and empathy, basically.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. I think that gives us the perfect, segue to my next question. This is something that you work on with as a collaborative effort with your husband as well. What does that creative process look like for you guys when you're creating the story? Because, there's so many depths to it and layers to it. So, what's that look like for you when you're scripting it out and creating it and then drawing it up?
Yeah. So, what we do, and my husband works a lot of hours, because like in a lot of families, like where his family comes from, mind you, and this is almost going to sound like a cliche, but they own a restaurant, so he works a lot of hours at that. And he's actually getting ready that he's going to be taking that over. But when he comes home, what he does is we sit down and we start going over ideas. We have pages upon pages upon pages of ideas to put into this. And then what happens is, from those ideas, we start scripting all that into something that looks halfway manageable. Pretty much. Just, it's like, okay, so if this is cool and this is cool and this is cool, hey, those three might work together and we can throw that into this. And that's pretty much how that starts. And that's our first draft. And then what we do is I do all the dialogue for the characters and all the action stuff and all that. And then I fling it at him and go, make sure that these people are talking smack the way they're supposed to, because that's not me. Mm-hmm. And that this guy is appropriately... Can I swear in here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, he's appropriately an asshole, basically. And that this guy over here isn't being a jerk. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that they stay perfectly in character. because he's first and foremost my first reader. And then after all that, I go through again and make sure everything is appropriate for paneling.
Real quick, we have...
And that's when I start actually drawing pages.
We have the Fluff over on YouTube stopping in to say, oh, sweet, hi. Welcome to the stream, Fluff. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away. So, this seems like such an intense battle sequence. I gotta ask, out of you and your husband, who would win in a kitchen showdown?
Between me or him? Actually, I don't want to be mean, but I have to say me.
You know,
I want to say him, but
when me and my significant other started living together for the first time, I was the cook, but now she's slowly taking the helm, and I know she's in the other room playing Stardew Valley, smiling, probably big as can be that I finally admitted that. But I think she'd probably lay the smack down on me as of right now. I don't use enough spices, she says, but that's, you know.
What can you do, right? What can you do?
So let's go ahead. I think we kind of like built up a lot of this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first couple of pages that is available on Global Comics, and we'll go through that together. And then this is free to read. You said you are looking to add how many chapters before you get it printed again?
4 more, so that it will be 5 chapters, which is basically an appropriate volume. And then we're actually going to try and get the first volume printed. We'll be adding a lot of extras in behind it, so you're going to get everything from character bios to sketches, character concepts, world building. It's the first volume is because this is my love story to myself and my readers. The first volume is going to be jam-packed with a bunch of awesome things, basically.
So this is Bash, but we don't see him in this form within the first couple of pages. Can you give us a little bit of an explanation, you know, why he looks so different here?
Okay, so what this is Bash has 2 different forms, and when you first start the comic, you don't get to see this form until he actually starts fighting seriously. And the reason for that is because Bash is based on Wukong. And Wukong actually has like 70-something different forms, but Bash has decided that because he's changed his name and everything, like he doesn't want to be Wukong anymore, so he's sealed away most of his powers. And he's only kept one of his forms. And this form is for when he's serious. And it's basically based on something, we'll call it very demonic, but not in a Christian sense, right? Or anything like that. It's because we're keeping to mythology and all of that. It's very, I don't know how to pronounce this one. Oni, you know.
Yeah, you know, I was asking you earlier in hopes that you'd give me the correct pronunciation.
Don't trust me.
So, and that brings me to another interesting question. I read in some of the extras that you and your husband were kind of like trying to bounce ideas of the design of the main character, and that you originally wanted a monkey-looking design, and he wanted the Oni-looking Oni design. And whoever's watching, give me the correct pronunciation in the chat, please, because one of us has to be right here. So this was a nice way to kind of get the best of both worlds, I felt.
It was. So we gave him the battle form that ended up looking monstrous, and I think it's just awesome personally, because I was just like, you know what, heck yeah. And then outside of battle form, he's just like, yeah, I'm just like this dude that really loves cooking. I'll kick your ass somewhere in the back alley.
All right, so let's go ahead and start
me off too much.
Checking it out. Oh, Oni, thank you, the Fluff. The Fluff in chat has our back. So I love this look right here. Just him kind of just sitting there, just chilling, all relaxed out. Gigantic big old belly. Is that how he's like portrayed in the original like book?
No, he isn't actually. He's if we do flashbacks of him, he actually won't look like that.
Okay.
This is we'll call it a new development.
You could tell that he definitely loves food though. Yeah. So this is the little thank you. If you want to go ahead, maybe give us a little bit of a breakdown here.
Okay, let's actually see if I can read it. It's like
Is this for
Okay,
ants?
Right. So it basically says that it's a collaborative effort between me and my husband. Ooh, my husband. And we want to give you, all our readers, the best of who we are. And it's lovingly crafted. Because, with love. And we want to thank people for choosing to read our comic. And that their support of Way of the Kitchen King, basically, it just means so much to us. Because it really does. Every time somebody supports this comic, it puts us just over the moon. It really does. It puts us over the moon.
That's so awesome. I love it. I love the energy.
We are a tiny team. Look, we're a tiny team in New Brunswick, Canada. So we're tickled that people are along for this comedic, action-packed, romantic journey. This comic will take you on a strange culinary adventure. We're 100% certain will tingle your taste buds and leave you gripping the edge of your desk in anticipation.
Well, let's go ahead and check it out. Everyone, prepare to grab your desk, and without further ado, let's dive right in.
I got it.
So right here, we get a nice little introduction to the area. It's called Terra of Greater Terra. So can you give us a little bit of a breakdown of what this is?
Okay, so Greater Terra it's not the name of the world itself. It's a region.
Okay.
Greater Terra is basically a region, a northern region within a country. And think of it as if it's broken up into, I don't want to say provinces or states necessarily, but not even really counties. But it's broken up into different jurisdictions.
Okay.
And Greater Terra would be one of them. So that's it's a little northern jurisdiction that's called itself Greater Terra, and it's all part of a larger country. And eventually, what'll happen is the Kitchen King tournament starts off as a regional thing. So it starts off in this little jurisdiction, and it will keep expanding and expanding and expanding until we reach nationals, and then we reach the world tournament.
I like that.
That's how it works.
We see a little bit of dialogue of him, and this is where we get the first taste of the Kitchen King tournament. It's the 657th. So do these things happen like on a yearly basis, or like, at what rate are these happening?
They're happening annually. Yep. So they're happening on a yearly basis. Absolutely. And they're actually extremely important to the world, because this world it revolves around food culture.
Okay. And then right here we get a little bit of talking about his wife passing. So I mean, right in the beginning, we get the taste of the tournament and the taste of the death of his wife, and I thought that was really interesting to start the issue off with, kind of just setting that pace. What was some of your influence for beginning like right off the rip with it?
We wanted to show that everything has a time. Not everything lasts. Everything changes. Life changes, but it also must go on. So you have something that's moving forward, but a man that isn't moving forward.
Okay. And
that was the influence for that.
I like it too. Like right here, he brushes it away, and as he's walking, he stumbles across the Kitchen King tournament once again. It's almost like it's nagging him to join it. But as you said right here, better leave it in the past, right where it belongs. So a man that's willing to, move ahead with the times. I really liked, kind of how that happened too, how it just keeps like pestering him. So right here was another interesting introduction of the other protagonist of the story, the female protagonist, Coral. And his stomach must be made out of some steel to just straight knock her out like that.
Right? He's a big guy, and I like him that way. That's the blunt truth of that. He's pretty strong, but he's also, I always say, don't trust a chef that's too thin.
Yeah.
Because they're obviously not eating their own food.
No movement from the impact. I love that little tidbit there too.
And her just kind of like, oh.
And then
Like
so
she's gone.
we see the interaction between these two, and her nose is bleeding and broken. But right off the rip, this was a really interesting interaction too. We see some action starting to happen right here. What's going on right here?
So these are enforcers.
Okay.
And what they do they're not judges for the tournament. You haven't met the judges yet. They are going to be a whole other level of entertainment. But the enforcers for the Kitchen King tournament, what they are is they serve a lot of roles. And they could be security. They could help people with directions and stuff like that. Or, in this case, they could be on somebody's payroll.
Okay. So are
not in a good way.
Are they chasing after Coral then? Or is that yet to be just okay?
Oh yes, they're definitely chasing Coral.
And Bash, of course, has no idea what's going on. I love this little action sequence right here, though, like the electricity pulling off. Is that a fork that she's popping out right there? It looks like almost.
Oh yeah, that's a big old fork.
Oh, hold on one second. Sometimes I just gotta refresh on there.
Yep.
There we go. And then right here, another beautiful layout. I love this sequence right here. He grabs her, and so this fork has it looks like electrical properties, if I'm not mistaken. Or what type of attack and ability are we seeing right here?
What you're seeing right here is that basically I took the idea of a culinary fork, like the fork that you eat with, and the idea of a tuning fork, which just works off sound and sound waves and all that. Oh,
I like that.
Yeah. And I gave it the electricity property because the twang and all that. And that's exactly the type of attack you're getting.
And then I love how it's like superimposed right here, super big, stuck in the ground. Like you were saying, how they get the DNA and the ability to grow. And then the little tidbit right here, tournament profile has 50 so many likes on it. So I love how she just like stops out of nowhere to check her social media right there. But then they notice, right here, the uniforms. These are enforcers from the Kitchen King competition. And right here too, they could have killed her with that utensil. So he's noticing off the rip something's not right.
Yeah, he's finally realizing, okay, this is more than just what's going on here. You just tried to kill her. It's like, hold on, my dudes.
And then it looks like, so she has a whisk?
Yeah, she has a whisk.
And right here. Hers. So I love it. Like he's like, I wouldn't bring that up if I were you. So like bringing out these eating utensils is almost like bringing out a weapon, like bringing out a gun. It feels like in this world.
It is. And if you bring that out, it is automatically a challenge. That if you bring that out, somebody else, if they have a utensil, not everybody has, but a lot of people do, especially if they're in the tournament or they're part of it or associated with it in some way, they will automatically take theirs out and be like, let's rumble.
Okay. Two of us and only one of you has a utensil. And then, old man, are you planning to fight us with your bare hands? Little do they know, though, that they're up against one of the one of the kings of the tournament. So how has his legacy has not reached them? You said he was a pretty prolific.
It actually has, but the thing is that he's changed so much in the way he looks in the past few years.
I gotcha.
And that'll come up the further that we progress into this chapter, because someone else is going to show up and actually will recognize him, and then everybody else is going to be like, I think we made a mistake.
And I really love that the huge fork in the foreground, and then he just assumes control of it, so they're able to take other people's weapons and command them.
They're not supposed to.
Okay.
It's not supposed to be something that's normal.
Oh,
and that's
all
something
right.
else. And but the thing is, though, is that there's a really plausible reason why he can actually do this.
Mm-hmm. And right here too.
I don't mind saying it on here because I'm really excited about it. He's actually one of the pioneers of the system.
Oh.
And the reason that he can control it is because he's one of the people that invented these utensils.
Okay. So So we noticed right here they bring up the utensils are coded to their user, and you're saying he created them. Are there only a limited amount of them in the world, or what does that look like in this type of environment?
There is a limited number of them, and they have to be passed down from person to person. The only ones that aren't limited are forks, spoons, and knives.
Okay.
Because like in our world, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the most prevalent and probably the most widely used. So forks, spoons, and knives are the easiest to get, but anything else is very limited and has to be passed down. So, but like I said, he has the ability to pretty much override control.
And I love this too. The 1-800 how's my throwing arm? Like,
yeah, that gets me.
Get forks. So, hold on one second. Oh, nope. And then that's where we leave off. So I think that's what happened last time. When I initially read through this, I think I accidentally clicked next release. So I got to the part where Coral initially ran into the stomach, and then that's where I left off. Because I accidentally hit next release, and it took me to the extras. But we can go over these two since we're here if you want to.
Yeah, actually hit next release again. There's 2 more pages right now because they were just new. Okay. And then if you want to, we can come back to the extras.
So these are continuing off from the chapter,
yeah,
right?
Where the other one. Yeah, and then what I'll do is I'll integrate them in. I'll merge them in.
Okay, I gotcha. So I love this right here, just filled with electricity. Is that from getting hit with the fork?
Yeah.
So like, do these have the abilities to kill them, or do they just like hurt them? Like
they can.
Okay.
They can kill them if it goes overboard. You're not supposed to. It's extremely illegal. But it can absolutely kill an individual.
And then they're noticing right away that this dude is a little too OP. They weren't expecting this level of mastery of these eating utensils, because he just like straight demolished them. Yeah,
he's a one and done for the most part.
All right, let's go ahead and go back and check out the extras. So Way of the Kitchen King extras.
Yep.
And then this is where I kind of got some of my behind the scene information. So Bash, right here, we knew that you wanted him as the monkey, but the husband wanted him as Oni. And then you ended up on having a character that has 2 forms, his normal everyday body and the form he takes on during competitions when he fights seriously. So it suited Bash in the end, since the story became loosely based on the journey to the west and other tales and adaptations surrounding the Monkey King. And then Coral, hold on one second. I want to see if there was a way from your scroll. Coral was one of those characters that came out of nowhere. Originally, she had a much more smaller role in the plot of the story, and she became the love interest of the protagonist. And after several revisions, Coral will be featured in an arc of her own and now boast a more prominent role in the plot. So you're going to have like a little spin-off story just focused on her?
Yep, we will. We'll be having a little spin-off. And once she's better acquainted with the readers, or the readers are better acquainted with her, it's actually going to take place after chapter 5, which will be at the end of volume 1 and before we start volume 2.
Okay.
And then it was decided that's when her little arc.
It was decided that she would be a human to complement the very non-human appearance of Bash. Bash is a chef and Coral is a baker, so her culinary weapon also went through a number of revisions until you both settled on a whisk, something fun and functional for her skill set. So what type of skills are we going to see from her?
So she is trained in French culinary, and she's a baker. So what you're going to see from her, everybody has not just their weapon, but they also have a special ability. And mind you, Bash's is called the joy of cooking, and Coral's is called sweet success. So what this does is, if you can't use it all the time, but if you invoke that ability, it ups your chances of what you're doing, and you can use extra skills that you wouldn't normally be able to harness.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And then that was that too. So that is that everything that you have up on Global Comics as of right now?
It is, as of right now.
Ooh, let's go ahead. I'm going to put that link. Actually, let me go back to the original first page. Whoops. There we go. Right here. Be sure to check it out. Be sure to follow Fried Rice Comics on Global Comics too. What's your upload schedule looking like right now? I know we were talking a little bit earlier, but what does that buffer look like? Look at me using big words that I learned from my first couple of interviews with creators like this. So what's your buffer looking like, in your upload schedule?
Our buffer sits pretty low right now. I had actually gone through some very extreme health concerns. We thought I was actually going to have my gallbladder out. I know.
Dang.
Yeah, right? We actually thought I was going to have to go in for emergency gallbladder surgery, but it turned out I didn't have to. Thank goodness. But unfortunately, because I was out for close to a month, I got nothing done, ate the buffer.
Yeah.
But we update currently about every Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, depends on when I can get done. And it's every week. We don't miss weeks unless I'm sick.
No, I got you. We have
as simple as that.
We have a Calculus over on YouTube stopping in and say, hey, welcome Calculus. How are you doing? Thank you for stopping by. So yeah, now that you're, fortunately a little bit more healthier, are you, what's that buffer going to look like? What are you trying to work for? I guess what's the ideal spot for a buffer for you?
Right. The ideal spot for me would be about 6 months ahead. And the reason for that is because we offer a read ahead version normally that you can subscribe to on Global Comics. And what that will do is allow you to read 2 weeks ahead at a time. But if I can work it with Global Comics, I would like people to actually be able to read up to 2 months at a time. So 8 weeks. So a 6 month buffer is perfect for me, because that way it allows for me to not feel well if I have to, but still accommodate for paid readers and free. Free will update exactly as it has been, no question. Paid is something that I want to get running, get it going on a consistent schedule, and people can tune into that and read just pretty much the same way, just ahead. Every Tuesday, no questions asked.
So I know you said after chapter 5, you want to more introduce and flesh out Coral's story a little bit more. How many chapters altogether are you looking at for this? I know you were talking about some pretty big tournaments, in the foreseeable future, but how many chapters overall can we expect?
We actually don't have an ending point, and the reason why it's so open-ended is because it will be determined by how popular the comic is. We could end this in as soon as 10, 15 chapters, but we also want to leave it open that once the primary part of a main tournament is done, if we need to go into different, I don't want to call it seasons, but basically seasons, then there's an ability for continuation.
So,
because I just think that's good. I hate to say good marketing, but I think that's good marketing.
No. I think it's always, safe to play ahead like that too and plan ahead. Are we going to see any sort of different variations on the tournament? I mean, there's so many different types of contests out there, right? Like eating contest, cooking contest, baking contest. I mean, what, and we're just scratching the surface here. Are there any ideas that you can maybe give us a little bit of a leak on or a little bit of a hint at?
You will. You'll be seeing all sorts of different variations on it. There's going to be everything they will be going to different regions and meeting different judges. So there'll be different themes to the food, just to start us off. So you'll get everything from Chinese food to even American and Italian. You might even get Thai at some point, stuff like that.
That's gonna be cool.
Yeah, there'll be theme challenges, and then there's going to be at some point everybody's going to have to make the same thing, and they're going to have to see whose is better, and of course there are going to be eating competitions, but not the chefs themselves. What's going to happen is they're going to bring in people that do this, and they're going to have to try and keep up with them. Is what it is. The chefs will have to try and keep up with the competitors.
Oh, I love that. That's cool.
Like the people in the competition. So it's just how do we do this?
So
you have to cook while they're eating.
With this kind of being your first big break into comics after you know, everything that you did with school wise and everything. You know, how does it feel like being back into the industry, like within creating comics? Like, how's that experience been for you overall, and what are you looking forward to next, like with everything in the future?
It's been a thrill, actually. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I wouldn't want it any different. I worked in the industry on the other end of it. I was in printing and publishing for 10, 11 years, actually. And I've done everything from editorial to pagination. For people who don't know what pagination is, it's actually layout and ensuring that everything looks good. It's the pretty, without actually being a graphic designer. So I've also done graphic design as well. My degrees are in graphic design and journalism. I have 2 degrees, and I always say I have 2.5, because I also have a little bit of marketing. Advertisement marketing, and but I enjoy the art more. So being in comics is everything. I don't know what I do. I think I always told people, you know, if I was paralyzed from the waist down, I think I could actually live with that. Just don't take my hands. Don't take my hands in my eyes.
You know, it's funny too, because I always think about, like, if I'm gonna have to lose a finger, like, hopefully I don't like lose like the ones that I need to play video games with. Like, I'd be good with like losing a pinky if I had to, like, take the pinky. We have Calculus over on YouTube. I'm excited to get to reading this after the interview is over. It is such a good read, Calculus, and we did go over all the pages. If you want to rewind on the preview to kind of get Jillian's thoughts on them, feel free to. But yeah, this is so awesome. So anything in the works outside of Way of the Kitchen King, or is this kind of just your main focus right now?
We're doing it as a main focus right now, but we absolutely always have stories in the works that sit in the wings, basically, because what they're for is that, say, if somebody ever wanted to see a one shot from us, boom, it's there.
Ready to go.
We're ready to go. Or we're already developing for after this one is done. Because I think after this one is done, I'm going to revisit the comic that I've always wanted to do, Ion Aether, and
the mech
see
one?
if I can do that. Yeah, the big mech one, the big sci-fi mech comic, and see if I can do that epic ballad again.
So was it hard drawing the mech suits? Was that like, 'cause it seems like that would be so intricate, like the designs and everything.
Yeah, those are, I think they're the hardest thing I have ever attempted. They're really rewarding because they make everything else look easy. And then when you draw something like this, you're suddenly like, you know what? This isn't too bad. You can really sit down, get used to this. You have a lot of patience all of a sudden. And you're enjoying the process. And when you're drawing mechs, it's like, wow.
Because you got all the different angles and stuff, and then it all has to be uniformed, or it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, and if you do one thing wrong, the whole thing looks off.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So that is awesome. I can't wait to see that from you too. Any idea of when you might start working on that, or is that kind of still in the works?
It's definitely still in the works. Right now, actually, I'm training my husband. That sounds wrong, but I'm training my husband to do coloring and screen tones for me and stuff. And if he can take over that and some of the lettering, then I would actually be able to, mind you, do 2 comics at once. And if I can do 2 comics at once, then I'll be able to bring Ion Aether back.
Oh, that'll be so cool.
So, yeah, so then I'd be able to do both and give them both the time they deserve.
Oh, that is awesome. Once again, for everyone that is watching, here is the link to the global comic setup for Fried Rice's Comics. You have the option to subscribe to read, you said 2 weeks ahead?
Yep, you have the option. Right now, we don't have the buffer up, but honestly, it's going to be coming back. So I just want to give you all fair warning that if you subscribe right now, don't panic. It's coming back. It'll be this week, because what we do on there is we post pages as we're finishing them. So what happened was we ran out of buffer because of my health.
Yeah.
But it's going to be there. It's going to be there extremely soon, and by soon I mean within days.
Do you have any sort of other subscription-based links, like a Patreon or a Coffee or anything that you'd like to shout out as well?
Nope, we are strictly Global Comics right now, and that's because of my health and stuff like that, I can't really juggle too much at once. It's not something that's really healthy for me, we'll say. No,
I gotcha. And there's nothing wrong with that either, you know. So real quick, before we wrap things up completely, I do want to ask you one question in particular, because as much as this is a podcast where we showcase you and your book, I can't really deny the fact that there are many creators that watch this who might be new and wanting to jump into the creation process themselves. So with that in mind, for anyone out there who's just starting for the first time and they're just having trouble to get started, just creating, you know, maybe creating the art or getting started with the script, what type of advice would you offer them to kind of help them push through and just get it done?
Honestly, my advice is to schedule yourself. And the reason I say to schedule yourself is that if you don't, and let me give a little bit of background for that. Mm-hmm. I am extremely high functioning autism because I still have it. But if I don't have a schedule for when I do things, then I feel unmotivated, or I can feel like, oh, I can just leave that for tomorrow. And then it just doesn't get done because it's always tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So if you schedule yourself and you set aside time to actually do something, instead of just saying, oh, I'll do that when I get home. It's not, oh, I'll do it when I get home. It's, I got to do this at like 7 o'clock tonight, between 7 and 9 or something like that. Then you know, this is my time for this. Mm-hmm. And you get used to the schedule after a while. At first it feels really weird. But after a while, you get so that it becomes easy. Mm-hmm. And you fall into routine, because routine is kind of good in a sense. It's not, you shouldn't always be on routine, but routine for stuff like this is really good because it keeps you on track. So that's probably my best advice.
We have David Schmelling over on YouTube. Quick greetings from Germany. Glad to learn more about your comic. Thank you for stopping in, David. Welcome. I don't know if you guys caught it, but my cat snuck into the cat tent and fell asleep live on stream. I'm always a big fan when he does that too. I heard the little pawing and the crinkling, so I had to look over and he's snoozing in there. So awesome piece of advice though. I know for myself, if I don't, like, Wednesday's my big day where I don't have my children, I don't have work, so this is where my biggest day where I do content creation. And if I don't have a game plan, I will like literally like be on the couch all day, like, okay, I'm gonna just doom scroll on Twitter until I get motivated to do something, and then it just never happens. Yeah. So that schedule is very, very important for me to like be on the ball with things too. So awesome. Thank you so much, Jillian. I had such a great time having you come on here, breaking down Way of the Kitchen King and everything else. This is so awesome. Thank you so much for swinging by.
Thank you for having me, Cody. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And for everyone that's watching, if you see any more Keeping It Geekly live streams, you will see an awesome logo in the beginning that was designed by Jillian. It's so awesome. I love it. I cannot get enough of it. Oh man, it's great. I would show it right now, but there's no, you know what I'll do is when I end, I'll switch over to my starting soon screen and I'll show you guys what it looks like. It's so cool. Because it is my starting soon screen now. Like when I go live, I have it like it'll be and I have animation behind it. It's really cool. But with that being said, guys, it is time for us to wrap up. It is New Comic Book Day. Be sure to treat yourself by going to Global Comics, checking out Way of the Kitchen King, and reading the first chapter. How many more pages until the chapter is complete?
We're looking at about 5-6 pages. That's it.
Okay, so it's almost complete. So you'll be able to read that in its entirety probably about 5 weeks from now. Yeah. Or is it like a page every Tuesday?
2.
2. Okay,
so 2. Yeah. So and I'll probably post one of the weeks is probably just going to be 3 pages. So 2 weeks. We're 2 weeks done. 2
weeks is going to be complete, and you can check that and read it out for free on Global Comics. That being said, we are going to be ending it. Jillian, I hope you have an awesome Wednesday. Everyone else watching, I hope you have a fantastic day, but most importantly, keep it geekly.